Amish Quilts, Stories and Techniques with my guest Claudine Hansen is a study of Amish design, color, and also the importance of hand quilting. I have to admit, I'm not a hand quilter. I'm a machine quilter, and this miniature of an Amish rail fence quilt shows the beautiful hand quilting done to accentuate the design. Rather than using the hand stitching, I'm going to show you how to use the Sashiko machine to do the stitching. Now this is like a bread maker. It does one thing. Bread makers make bread. This does hand quilting or top stitching. It does it very well. It only uses one thread, and the thread is in the bobbin. So for those of you who haven't seen this, I'm just going to open up the bobbin area and show you the special latch area. There's a latch underneath the area next to the bobbin, and then there's a hook up above in the needle area that forms a stitch and then skips a stitch, forms a stitch and skips a stitch. So with this mechanism set up, I'm going to close the door and lock the thread and then show you the adjustment that you can make. And the adjustment is to the stitch length and to the spacing between the stitches. So a simple setting dial or lever setup is on the right of the machine, and when it's set at 2, stitch length 2, spacing 2, the top row is what you see. Every other stitch, just like hand stitching, would be achieved. As you lengthen the stitch spacing and length, of course the stitches lengthen. And I decided to simulate hand stitching to have the stitch length at 2 and the spacing at 2.5. The front part looks just like hand quilting. The back is a chain stitch. Remember, this is a machine, so it does not have the same appearance, and each stitch is locked along the way. So if you're quilting using this technique, you're going to layer your fabric. Whether you're working with an Amish style pattern or with any particular pattern, you're going to have your top layer, your batting, and your backing. Pin them together. And we're working with miniatures, so working with small pieces. And then do a test beforehand, which I have already accomplished. And again, I have it set at 2 length, and the spacing is at 2.5. And I'm just going to sew. And as I sew this, it's just like straight stitching, only that it's skipping every other stitch. And I'm going to stop with the needle down, pivot this, and I'm sewing right in the middle of the design. Now this is an Amish style pattern. Obviously that's the name of our series, and they've used subtle colors, so you can see the changing of the reds. Any red works, or any shade of red works in this rail fence design, so I'm just stitching down the rail fence area, and when I get to the middle of the design, I stop with a needle in the fabric, and I have hand stitching, the look of hand stitching without stitching it, and every stitch is the same size. I'm just going to sew a few more of these blocks so you can watch how it skips every other stitch. I find this fascinating. So to make my miniature Amish quilts, I'm just going to do this type of stitching, and I'm going to stop right now I'll finish this later, but just to show you as I pull this out, as you see my machine stitching, it looks almost like the professionals who have done the hand stitching for generations. So it's a great way of finishing your Amish quilt without doing all the handwork.